We've all heard the old adage, drive for show, putt for dough, but no matter how good your putting is, there's no real value in 3 off the tee, 5 off the tee, 7 off the tee, and then raking that 30-footer in for a 10 or 11 or a 12. It's not really going to do the scoring much good. We all know how important driving is. Keeping it on the fairway is obviously the ultimate, but just keeping it in the ballpark keeps us in the game. We want greens in regulation, we want to be putting for that birdie, putting for that par, and it makes things so much more enjoyable. So, what is the difference between swinging with an iron and swinging with a driver? Because they are two extremely different pieces of equipment, and therefore our movement should also be different. We kind of just focus on teeing the ball up and using our normal golf swing when we're using a driver, when in actual fact we should be approaching it with a whole different concept. We don't need to go into lots of detail, we just need to be able to feel what's required. So with an iron, we've got to hit down, we've got to get that sweet spot to the golf ball. So the golf club's going to be descending, and you can already see the orientation of the club. The handle's going to be in front, club's going to be descending, and the sweet spot approaches the ball, and we get that all-important compression, that feeling of compression. We do compress every golf shot, but it's that feeling of that sweet spot, that centre of percussion, that's really giving us that soft feeling off the centre of the face. We want that feeling of club face on ball and then turf. Compare that to a driver, we've got the ball on a tee peg and we've got to hit on the up. So this looks very different. Now we've got an ascending angle of attack to get the sweet spot on the ball and launch the ball to get maximum distance, because we want to get that carry, so we need that launch angle and we need low spin. So it's all about angle of attack. And how do we recognise that in our movement and release? So we're going to use the hoop as a representation of the swing. Okay, it's not really a true circle, but it's a good example. This is the hitting area, so this is where we're going to be striking the golf ball. The alignment stick is just indicating the path at this moment in time on the arc. With an iron, we're striking at the bottom of the arc, or even on the downward part of the arc. So the path, especially with the short irons, gets shifted to the right. Even though I'm swinging in this direction, by hitting down, the path goes to the right. And it's also a steeper angle. It's not a shallow angle here. We know the 7 iron, for example, is coming steeper than the driver. It's completely different with the driver. If we go to the ball on the tee peg now, we're hitting on the up. We're hitting much later on the arc, and now the path is much further left than the direction I'm swinging. So now we've got a path to the left, even though we're set up at the target, straight down the middle of the fairway. So completely unintentionally, I'm setting myself up for a path that's going left. So a fade path, essentially. Now this could be the ultimate in self-sabotage, because if I'm aiming my club face straight down the fairway, and I'm swinging down the fairway, hoping to hit it straight, what I've actually created is a swing path to the left by the time I get to the ball, but I'm trying to release the club and hit down the fairway, and what I've just created is a ball that's going to start fairly straight and slice off. I've got a bit of a fade bias swing as well. I've now got a big path to the left. It won't feel this much with the actual swing, but the club head is travelling considerably to the left by the time you get to the ball. And now we've got this built-in fade slice, and if you do manage to square the face up and match the face to the path, you've got a big pull. It's one of the most common shots and misses I see in golf with the driver. So what do we need to do? How can we negate that slice to give ourselves the best opportunity of bombing that drive down the fairway and playing that nice little draw? Well, we need to shift our swing direction. So what we need to do, we need to move around the ball. And now I've got a swing direction to the right, which is actually creating a more neutral or slightly, if you like, into-out draw swing. So in order to shift our swing direction to the right, when we're addressing the ball, we don't just aim to the right, we don't just pull the right foot back. You may have heard a lot of people talk about pulling the right foot back. particularly for senior golfers and things like that, okay? But what that's going to probably do is create a restriction with the hips and the follow through. It's also going to play havoc with your ball position, because if I just pull this right foot back, so there you can see the ball's in line with my left heel. So I use the alignment stick just to highlight where the ball is. It's inside the left heel. If I just pull my left foot back, and now I'm going to aim to the right with the body, this is in a completely different place. It's way, way forward. This is where the left heel is. And look where the ball is now. Way forward of where it should be. So I've actually now made matters worse. I've shifted my ball even further forward. And we know from using the hoop, the further along the arc you're striking the ball, the more the path is going to the left. So I've actually now just accentuated the fade. It's going to look like a big slice basically. So we've got to make sure this doesn't happen. And this is something I see every day. So we've got to make sure that we walk around the ball, we move around the ball and maintain that relationship between the ball and ourselves. That position needs to stay the same. Imagine a wheel. This is the spoke of the wheel. Once I've got myself set, i.e. the ball position's in the right place, I'm going to move around the wheel. Now we don't have to move a lot, and we've got to ensure the whole body moves, not just the feet. Okay, your feet do have some part to play because they're part of the body, but the feet aren't really responsible for the direction your ball's going. They're not holding the golf club, they're not swinging the golf club. We're mindful of where the feet are, but let's be more focused on where the rib cage is. Okay, this is really important. Moving around the golf ball with the rib cage and the feet following. Just moved a couple of inches round the wheel, and now the ball has maintained its position in relation to me, but I've got a swing direction now to the right. This is now setting us up ready to deliver that club and create a functional path. What we've got to do is recognise the space this club's going to swing through, and we've got to allow this thing to release. So how do we do that? Because we've got lots of degrees of freedom available to us to bring that sweet spot to the ball, and most of us aren't utilising all of them. So one of the most influential planes of motion is the rotation around the shaft, and this is one that a lot of people aren't attuned to. This horizontal rotation, yeah, a lot of us are aware of this. Okay, a lot of us are using this to try and square the face up. Okay, the vertical, this is going to help us get power. This is helping us get that leverage from the wrist, but it's this one that we really need. That's going to help bring the sweet spot back to the ball. It's also going to help deal off the golf club, because when we swing back, we're going to get some rotation, but we've also got to recognise this rotation back, which is going to help square the face. Now, we don't have to think about this while we're swinging, because this is all subconscious. We're not thinking of the hand when we're throwing a ball, but what we've got to recognise is the feeling. We've got to accept this movement. We've got to be familiar with it, to accept it and commit and just utilise it. So it's this rotation that's going to really help us that we might not be using. You might be, you might not, but we need to know. We know the golf club needs to swing now on a draw arc. So what does that space look like? What does it feel like? Well, it's over here. It's not over here to the target. If we're moving with the club, the chances are we're not going to allow it to swing out there, because we need to counter this golf club. We have to counterbalance the club. So we've got to allow the club to swing out that way whilst we're counterbalancing it. Now, with the irons, there's not as much speed, there's less force, less, if you like, less momentum, and so the clubs are shorter and we're able to compensate a little bit more. There's more loft and we're hitting down, so the path might not become so extreme to the left as it will with a driver. So we've got to let that club swing more freely, and we've got to be comfortable letting that club face turn down. So just feeling the club open and close. So you're just starting to recognise essentially just wrist motion. That's all. We're just recognising a free swinging motion with the wrist. It's The wrists are essentially a universal hinge and we're just letting them swing. So the club face, there you can see it's pointing up, there it's pointing down. And then we can start to rotate the shoulders and just making nice easy swings and letting that club swing out to the right. Create a more expansive movement. And notice where this follow through takes you. It's a very different finish to being over here facing down the middle of the fairway. Just because the face is rotating, that doesn't mean it's going to go miles left, because we're swinging right. So we've now created a functional face and path relationship. We've got a ball starting right and drawing back. But that might feel a long way right with the swing direction, but that's not where you're hitting the golf ball. The swing direction is just the direction you're swinging. That's not the moment you're striking that golf ball on the arc. When I swing for a draw, I'm going to be swinging to the right. This can feel excessively right, way right. Look where the club is behind me here, and the movement I'm making it feels so far right. But by the time your club swings down on this arc, it's only just swinging to the right. Here, this feels extreme, but down here, where it all goes subconscious, it's really fast. The whole thing's a blur. It's a lot more neutral than you think. So therefore, exploring the draws and fades in your practice requires going to the extreme. It requires shifting that path further than you've ever previously thought you needed to. You've got to push the boundaries, find out where these thresholds lie, and explore them, and then you can bring it back. But first of all, you've got to take yourself to that place. And that might feel really, really strange, and you might be compensating by just aiming right and swinging right. You might not be playing a functional draw, a true draw. You might not actually be using the swing path and a free wheeling face. You might just be turning your body and essentially still hitting that pull fade, but just doing it further to the right, and it feels like a draw. This is something to explore on the practice ground and really identify the difference between the clubs and help you smash that driver so that when you're putting, it's for a birdie and not a double.